Yeah, the talisman of pure fenestration.
I just love jumping through windows. I don't know.
Every time something goes through a window, I heal 1d6. Where are you?
Where are you? I can't see you.
I cannot see you. You remember how they had problems before? Maybe we're just. Did they just bring in our voices or something? Is this?
Oh, and they forgot to like bring up the rest of our bodies. It's just
yeah. Maybe it's that again.
Okay. All right. Cool. Well, Invisible Byron, it's nice to not see you today.
Back at you, Invisible Sean. It is also nice to not see you today.
It's great to not see you.
Is it?
I love not seeing you.
Oh, that sounds more hurtful than I think you mean it to be.
No, it's great. It's good to be. I'm not going to judge you for not being able to be seen.
Okay.
Right?
Well,
why don't you go ahead and read?
Yeah, I'm just gonna get this out of the way then. Welcome to Caffeine and Cantrips, the show where we talk about D&D, or else. I'm Byron number 158, and
I'm Sean number 127. Catching up.
A little bit. I guess we're Invisible Byron and Sean, 158, 127. This week, these two hedge-born Clotpoles will be changing everything. So get out your moral protractors and your societal set squares as they realign alignment.
What's a Clotpole?
So welcome, guys, Caffeine and Cantrips. We're happy that you guys are back for our 10th episode.
What?
We've been destroyed so many times for your pleasure and ours.
Yeah.
That's now it's good. It's good. We're like a real thing. It's pretty amazing to be here. So thank you for being on this journey with us.
Mm-hmm.
It's awesome. And we're happy to have you out here.
Yeah. This week, we'll be talking about realigning alignment, where we talk about all about the alignment system in Dungeons & Dragons 5th Ed.
And how it's a little crooked.
Just a little bit
off.
A little crooked.
Yes. And I mean, I guess to start off, probably the best way is for us to align to the algorithm.
Right.
And just laminate ourselves with
it. If you want to align us with the algorithm and get more of our content, please make sure to like and subscribe and hit the notification button. Subscribe. Yeah. And follow and all that good stuff. Because we love making content for you and we just want to keep doing that.
Yeah. Do what you love. Never work a day in your life
or something.
So today, we're thinking about talking about the alignment system and how specifically this one's going to be very kind of 5th edition focused.
Yeah.
But just what it is, what it should be, and what it definitely isn't.
Yeah.
So I suppose we should kind of dig into it. Historically is probably the best place to start where it came from.
Okay.
Just so that in case you don't know a lot about kind of the evolution of it or lack thereof, and what's happened over time. But essentially, when it was initially conceived of, it was what we would call a single axis. So it's one spectrum, one line, and it exists somewhere on this straight line.
Right.
And the values went from law, neutral, and chaos.
Yep.
Right? That was it. That's all you had to pick from. And so when it was originally adopted from being something of a war game, like Warhammer or whatnot, then you had your armies of law and your armies of chaos. Right?
Okay.
So good guys is the law, technically, and then bad guys are chaos.
Okay.
Right? And from that, it took them a few books, colors, and editions as they went through from chainmail forward into OD&D, and is where they actually added a second axis that we're used to of good, neutrality, and evil. So that gave us kind of our spectrum on two fronts that built the grid that we know very, very closely today.
Yep.
And what is used today, even though there was a bit of kind of turbulence as we went through the editions, 4th edition broke from the mold and they returned it back from a 2-dimensional kind of object.
In my opinion, they broke a lot of things in 4th edition.
They broke a lot of things. Not our favorite edition, but somebody out there it is. So kudos to you. Enjoy it. But in that system, it went back to being a single axis.
Yep.
And they went from lawful good to neutral to evil to chaotic evil.
Right.
And that's it.
And that's it. They didn't have like the chaotic good, didn't have chaotic evil.
No, and it was a single line. So they coupled together lawfulness and goodness, as well as chaoticness and evilness. They combined those two, and then you had to be somewhere in between the two. And really kind of changed the definition fundamentally of what law and what chaotic meant. And then they scrapped that. And we went back to the old good versus evil axes, and then law versus chaos axes to build our grid once again. That we know chaotic good, lawful good, neutral good, right? All the way down. So that's kind of how it evolved in Wizards of the Coast and in TSR and in Chainmail and in all of those iterations. And it's fundamentally stayed pretty much the same.
Actually, can you tell me what Chainmail is? Because now you said it twice, and I'm not actually sure what.
Chainmail was the game that came before Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh, that's the war game.
Chainmail was the war game.
Oh, I see. Okay.
It was, well, I believe Chainmail, and correct me if I'm wrong, comment section. Chainmail was the first time that they started Chainmail was the first time that they started to introduce RPing elements into the war game.
Oh, okay, right. Okay. Yep.
So that's where they started to want story instead of just gory.
That was good. That was really good.
So with that, that's where it started, is where they started to make it more individual character focused instead of army focused.
Yeah.
And squad focused. But in this length of time, so we're talking, they introduced the idea of good and evil to Dungeons and Dragons in 1977. We're like 30 years down the road, and
50 now.
40 something. Yeah, down the road, and it hasn't changed. We haven't gone back and redefined, or we haven't added the nuance. We haven't added any kind of contextualization, even though we as a society in real life have come leaps and bounds in redefining terms and making sure that they're more accurate and coming up with new terms that are more specific and more accurate to what we need them to be, so we can have a better conversation.
Well, I feel like the world back then, people viewed it much more black and white, as in good and evil, law and chaos, and that was it.
Well, and conceptually, I think it was very much aligned to like the Judeo-Christian kind of morality as well, was really cemented in there. And there wasn't a global approach to it. It was one philosophy. We're just going to take that. That's easy. And it's really easy to then define who is part of our tribe, who is part of their tribe, and know who the heroes are and who the villains are. But as we know, and we've come a long ways, our stories are getting better. Right? And our stories are getting better because we spend the time to talk about them and focus on what needs to be improved, what needs to be just disregarded and left alone. And we haven't had that discussion, it feels like, for the alignment system in 40 plus years. So that's what we're doing today, amongst many other people and creators that have taken a stab at this. I think it's really going to be kind of important that we redefine everything, because everything kind of needs to be redefined.
Right. No, I do agree with that. And the problem with, I think, dealing with alignment is that in real life, like ethics and morality and stuff like that is kind of like barring a few sort of specific cases, it's very difficult to come up with black and white solutions, or like binary solutions to things. Like, because a certain event or action can be good in one context, but the exact same action and event in another context could be utterly evil.
Absolutely.
Right? And my problem, maybe not problem, but my issue that I have with the current 5e alignment system is that, is the major issue that I have is that one point is that alignment tends to be or good and evil, chaos and law, I should say, tends to be
So are you breaking them apart?
as they are in
Okay,
in
perfect.
5e.
Because it's exactly what I would do if I was going to start out. So are we talking about law, chaos, or are we talking about good, evil?
Both, actually,
Oh,
right
okay.
now.
Okay.
Yeah, they're because either way they're relative to something else, right? You're lawful compared to
Everything right on the spectrum.
exactly. You're
Yes.
chaotic compared to everything else that's more lawful,
Yes.
right? And unless there is some sort of standard in which that dictates that this is what law is and nothing else, or this is what chaos is and everything else is law, then the meaning behind lawful, chaotic, good, and evil sort of breaks down, right? Because sure, I'm like the most righteous person on earth. If you take the Judeo-Christian sort of mindset there, like context, even the most righteous person on earth is a sinner compared to Jesus, right? Or if you take a Buddhism, no one compares to Buddha, right?
Okay,
Like he is the epitome of that sort of alignment system. But barring something like that in your game, which depends entirely on the context of what your campaign world is, or what your DM is, because your DM then becomes that standard, right? But barring that, like it's so difficult to use the current alignment system as a guide for role play, because I mean, even the most usually evil person doesn't see what they do as evil.
Maybe.
Typically, I think, barring some people
know,
who are like,
maybe-
yes, evil. I want to be the evil guy.
Or they've
Right.
they've given themselves an excuse or a reason to do evil. They understand what they're doing is wrong, but they have expressed a reason that makes it worthwhile.
Well, then it's not.
I know that I'm killing people, but these people need to be killed and removed because
Right.
I believe they're corrupt.
Yes.
Right? So I know that killing is wrong, but I also know that I'm doing a greater good.
Well, in that case, they don't see themselves as evil. Like even
Correct.
you have terrorists on one side, but on their side, they're freedom fighters,
Yes.
right? So it just depends on what point of view you're looking at. So I'm like, so
Or
it,
what media.
oh.
Yes.
So that way, alignment, I'm like, I think it's good as a high level, so sort of maybe super high level beginner guide to sort of think about how you're sort of, as a general sort of rule set for your character to behave within. But when you really think about it, like lawful good it can do some really atrocious things,
Yes.
right?
Oh, you can do everything, technically.
Right, for the right reason.
Yes.
Right. Whereas a lawful evil person can do very good things. For selfishly, they just happen to become rich too.
Their right reasons, not society's right reasons.
Right.
Yeah. So I think one of the things that, I mean, if this is a tool, ultimately we need to decide, is this a tool that should exist in the game? As it is, I think no. However, I think that there are parts of it that we can salvage and move forward with. And one of the first things that I would do is decouple the two axes. I don't think that the part of alignment that I think really causes the most issues is the good-evil spectrum. Because the good-evil spectrum, like you've just demonstrated, it changes based on who is perceiving it and who is doing the actions and who is receiving those actions, right? So if we, for a moment, remove the idea of good and evil from it, and we just go from lawful, neutral, and chaotic, right? And then let's redefine what those are as kind of tendencies, and add, maybe some traits or values to them. Whatever those would work. So in your world, if a lawful, or generally, I think someone who is lawful believes in systems. They generally believe potentially in working together. So common values, building systems, having an organization and following that, versus, but not competitively versus chaotic would be somebody who appreciates freedom of movement, freedom of choice, a lack of kind of, let's call it bureaucracy to make their choices, but a freedom to make the choices that they want to make. Not good, not evil, but they just believe that one person leans more towards systems, the other one believes or leans more towards individual responsibility, right? An individual kind of choice. And if we go from there, we can look and judge what people do or what characters do in the game better than saying, oh, this has to be an evil act because you said you were lawful evil. So everything you do is evil, right?
Yeah.
No, it's not. This is just what we're going to start as a baseline, as an informative thing for our role play and for us deciding what we're going to do. My character appreciates organization. That's it.
Right.
Right? That's it. So, hey, when we go in to talk to the king, there's some things that we have to do as part of procedure versus, well, I'm not going to kneel. I don't kneel to no man.
Right.
Like, oh, okay. But that's not a good or evil action, right? That's just the character being themselves, right? We're detaching the morality from every action, but then allowing morality to be assigned later when you're doing those things in the world.
In the context of something happening.
So let's not worry about if every action is good or evil by itself, because no action is good or evil by itself.
Correct.
It's the consequences and the surrounding. So,
well, kind of like how a knife is not good or evil, right? It's evil. Right. I'm just cutting some cucumbers for the salad. Heretic!
Yes.
Destroy him.
So what happens if you cut with a spoon? That's an evil spoon, man.
It's the cutting that's evil.
It's the baby.
Yeah.
I was born to cut, Dad. Well, we'll get to that later. But yeah. No, so that idea. So I mean, as an initial thing, I think that we need to break it down and, like I said, redefine what the terms are. And when you go and you look at the player's handbook for 5th edition, it gives you so little information
it really
on what
does.
Actually is. And it says these are only basic, typical versions of what somebody might do. It doesn't talk about any of the reasons behind, any of the information that you're using as a player to create your decisions or to create your RP opportunities, or even to create the spectrum of reactions that you'll have.
Yeah.
It ignores all of that. And so we need to bulk that section out with some definitions that are guidelines to inform RP.
Now, I do in general agree with what you said.
Nice.
But I know, right?
1 point.
But now when it comes to sort of alignment, is it sort of your own tendencies and your own behaviors, or is it also including your beliefs of how other people should also act and behave? Like, if I believe in law, do I then, is it just me believing that I like to be within systems and work within sort of a rubric of behaviors and rules? Or do I also believe that other people should do that as well? Right? And it's very different to believe that other people should also follow that.
I think maybe you believe that it works better if everybody believes the same thing that you do.
Right.
Right? Because then you know, oil and water don't mix, right? So if everyone is water, we all mix. If everyone is oil, we all mix.
Right.
Right? So we should be homogenous. And because we're all individuals and people, generally, we put that onto the self. So everything would work better if everyone was just like me.
Right. Because I view alignment system as sort of,
I think maybe
how a character or a person sort of determines what is right and what is wrong to them.
Yes.
Which includes other people. Right. So if I believe that you should follow the signs in the tavern that says wait here first to be seated.
Yeah.
Right. And if someone else just walks in, I won't like it. And I don't think that's wrong.
Correct.
Right. So in that way, I also believe that other people should follow the rules.
Yes. But
Right,
now simultaneously, them walking in doesn't make them evil.
No.
Right? It just means that they don't value the same things that you value.
Unless I believe that that's an evil act. But
someone's cruising for a smiting,
I know,
says
right?
the paladin.
Wait your turn.
Tip 12%. Yeah, no, potentially. But that's why I wanted to initially break the two away, right? And say that normally the character leans towards freedom, they lean towards structure, or the neutral variation in the middle is, you know what? I don't have a strong tendency towards freedom of choice or support of structure.
Right.
Both can work.
Yep. Like sometimes it's good. Sometimes you have to break the rules.
Sometimes, and it's busy, you don't go find your own table. Why? Because then you're going to complain it's dirty because they haven't cleaned it yet. Okay, great. Right? Whatever it is.
I mean, I don't necessarily mind that axes sort of version of alignment with good, neutral, evil, and law, neutral, chaos necessarily. I didn't like that that it's so high level that it's hard to really decide what your character thinks, right? Because what if I think that you have to follow the rules, but I also, right, following the rules is good, but saving lives is good too. But what if there's a point where I cannot both follow the rules and save someone's life? Then I, as a player and as the character, has this huge sort of space that I need to navigate in order to come up with an appropriate sort of course of action for my character. And I find that while it's possible, it's a lot of work because there's a lot of levels you have to work through in that mind space of the character to be like, oh, this is what they would do. Okay, right? I think there are better ways of guiding players in how their characters would actually behave. Okay. Yeah. So I don't think the alignment system is necessarily bad. I just don't think it's enough. I mean, I do think it's kind of bad for other reasons. Right? Yes.
Well, just that it's lacking. It's the skeleton of a system.
But as a guide, it's not quite enough. I think the bonds, flaws, ideals system that we have in character creation goes a long way to solving that issue of how would my character behave and what do they think about other people's actions or their own actions, right? But again, I don't think it's because I feel like the bonds, flaws, ideals is kind of like an afterthought that the designers sort of put in there. Like it's there, it's good.
We've talked about it before, and we've said it's a great first step.
Yeah, and I don't think it's nearly enough,
right?
To be used as a guide. And what I would sort of propose to be added or that you would use, you don't have to do it formally, but for yourself as a player, is to think about sort of the values that your character has. So that's for your own characters as well as your DMs for your characters, your NPCs, and your organizations and whatnot, right? It's what do they value? Do they value freedom? Do they value order, like having things happen the way they should and they ought to, predictably, right? Do they value life? Do they value justice? Right? In that way, you sort of get away from the absolute good and evil, absolute law and chaos, right? And you can get that sort of nuanced sort of guidelines for characters, what they believe in, of what is right and what is wrong, what's appropriate and what's not.
Sometimes that can be difficult when we start looking at building the characters. If you want to create a character that's then appropriate, having the cultural and societal influence around them, right, can really be an important thing to consider, right? So in the world building around you, right, having the idea or the knowledge of the DM says that this is this type of culture, right? These are the values, traits that they generally like. The most people generally lean more lawful, let's say, because it is a society, it's a grouping of people, it's a collective. Okay, great. Now, as a PC, when I'm creating the PC, I need to either take and absorb some of that stuff like a sponge, or I need to reject some of those things because I am an outlier. I am a unique individual. I am a PC.
Yeah.
Right? I'm an edgelord, so I don't like working with people. I'm very antisocial.
Oh, I'm Drizzt.
So
that one guy who's not like the rest.
Correct. And so when we go, that's a great example of how to stand out from your background, right? And how to really make yourself more unique, right? You're the black sheep in the flock of white.
You're a legend amongst your kind now.
Potentially.
right? Just by not.
If you become a legend,
Well, if you don't just get smote.
you're unique.
Yep.
I think.
Yeah.
Let's work on the legend as
As
we tell
we
the
level
story,
up. Yeah,
right?
yeah,
but,
yeah.
but when you start off, then at least now you can speak in your character's voice from a perspective that is more unique within your society.
Right.
I agree with 99% of things. The 1% is what stands me out from everybody else.
Yeah.
Okay, well, if you're only 1% different from the norm, then you're still normal. Right? But if you're 70%
Yeah.
normal and 30% not normal, okay, now we can see where you came from, the ideas that you and the ideals that you've absorbed,
Yeah.
but the other things that you've rejected as well.
No, I like that because then, in the end, not every Canadian has the same alignment, the same belief systems, right?
Nope.
That's what we pride ourselves in Canada, is that everyone can be themselves and different, and that's okay, right?
A cultural mosaic. Thank you, social studies.
For the Americans, melting pot,
Melting pot.
right? And you can see that each country even has their different belief systems, right? In general, they can work together, but I'm sure there'll be times where they're, even amongst, let's say Canadians, I'm Canadian.
That's why you just said sorry.
Yeah, it's true. Like 90% of the time, but in this one portion, I believe that it should be melting pot. Everyone should become like a Canadian, the official Canadian culture.
Whatever the Canadian
Right?
culture would be.
So
Yeah.
you would never know that I was, that I would have no friction with any other Canadian until this certain point came up,
Right.
right? And that's nuanced, right? All of a sudden, you're not like every other lawful good or lawful evil person, right? You are nuanced, and then
As you said, on the spectrum, right? Then you become a little bit more towards chaotic, right? Or perhaps not. You want the melting pot, so maybe you become a little bit more lawful. You want everything to be a little bit more structured, a little bit more homogenous.
Yeah.
Okay, so now everything to the right of you on that left-right spectrum,
Yeah.
or between chaos and law, then that's what you're changing.
Yeah. But if you're using the system of just assigning values to a person, then that's just who they are as an individual, as opposed to sticking them forcing a character to take on the sort of the aspects of a larger group.
Right.
I think it's part of sort of the one of the Western ideals is glorifying the individual and the importance of the individual, right? So
That's very like a Western,
Yes.
first world American kind of a viewpoint.
well, it's very Greek, and so the Western world, right? So it works, I think, better for us that way, and it's more sort of reflects reality a little more. Because even in societies where people are forced to become the same, they're just behaving that way. They've got their own values, right, within themselves, right? They just repress it.
That's interesting. And because I know you haven't, and I know I haven't, but maybe you have, get in the comments and let us know if you've participated in Eastern culture TTRPG experiences. Like if you've played in China, Japan, Taiwan, Philippines, anywhere in kind of an Eastern philosophy where the group and the society is more important than the individual, and the stories that you tell, if it's very different from a Western one, let us know, because that would be super cool to see if the story types.
I suspect that it'll mirror their media. It's sort of what it is, but we're not going to get into it because that's a big thing out of scope.
We'll put that one, and maybe we'll talk about that later once we get some more input. But because that would be very interesting to talk about something that isn't central, individual based, where they are supporting society around them and whatnot.
Yeah. So I think breaking it down to a system of values within a person, and then you can easily compare it to sort of the value systems of other people. Like, for example, say I am my character is an individual who values freedom and profit. Say those are the big things, and I would prioritize your values. Right, so you know what
I 100% think that once and reorganizing it in my mind, just so that it works for me. I would look at where I exist on that lawful chaotic spectrum, right? Still morality aside. I can assign morality after. And then I would go into what traits or qualities that being on that part of the string puts me at, what qualities I exemplify, and then my values. And I would go deep on the values and put them in a hierarchy, right? What drives my character? Is it a physical need? Is it a monetary need? Is it an emotional need? Whatever it is. And then change that kind of Maslow's hierarchy underneath it to figure out what my character would be.
It's funny, I would throw away morality for now.
Okay, so similar, yeah.
Because morality, it'll come out in the mix depending on where you are. Like me in Canada is very different than me in Iran. And how people would view me.
Yes.
Right? As, like, morally.
Okay.
So I would just build it just values. I would forget about, are you chaotic, are you or whatever. Build on the values, and then once you're done with that, you'll see, oh, this is a more chaotic individual. This is a more lawful individual. It's a mix, right? Or maybe these are the things that they think are good, right? These are things they think is evil. And whether they are viewed as evil or good will depend on who and what they're dealing with.
Interesting. So you build it the other way.
Yeah. So like, if I come from, like, again, my country and my character loves freedom and profit. If I go to another country where it's all about...
Sounds like a non-gnomish country.
Right, laws and harmony.
Yeah.
Right? Above all else.
Right.
There's no, like, mercies down there, generosities down there. It's just laws and harmony.
Okay.
Right? Then I would probably be viewed
like like almost like an insectoid or hive like.
Yeah, like this person's wrong. They're coming in there and they're messing everything up.
Yeah.
Remove their evil. They need to get rid of this character. But my character would go in and be like,
disorganization is evil in this case.
Like, what is wrong with this place? They need to change. I need to grant them freedom and blah blah blah. Right? And so then the morality will come out depending on the context.
Yes.
Right? Much like the knife, depending on if it's wielded to kill someone in cold blood, for selfish reasons, or used to cook a nice meal for.
Yeah, and provide life and sustenance.
Well, exactly.
Yes.
Right? So I think that's what I do. Some sort of system like that.
Interesting. Okay.
And then the conflicts. You'll naturally, depending on the combinations of values for different entities, you'll know whether they where they conflict and where they can harmonize.
It's interesting. As a way of informing myself, I would choose to pick my spot on that line first,
Interesting.
and then exemplify values that I find at that point, right? And choose from a spectrum of values, because we're not a single dot on that line, right? We encapsulate a section of it, right? Like there's room to move and choose. But no, I would pick that point first and then grow from there to kind of tell me what values I might want to look at.
Interesting.
First, to lower the amount that I have to, pick from.
Okay.
Because it's nigh infinite where you're starting.
Right.
And we have other things that are going to inform us, right? Like we talk about character concepts and inspirations.
Yeah,
and all of these types of things.
Yeah.
These are going to inform us, but I like to kind of I got to start somewhere. And you got to start narrowing it down somewhere.
It's funny. I think it's just the way our minds work.
Yes.
How it's different.
Absolutely. Yeah. Right. And so because of that, that's why I'm saying, because of that, I would rather choose from a fixed point and then maybe come back and edit it and maybe slide it a little bit as I conceptually develop, rather than build from the amorphous blob. Right. And then be like, yeah, it sticks about here. Right. And then we find that this is where it lives naturally. Yeah. Just conceptually, right?
Yeah.
That's how we differ.
Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, no, I think it's definitely got merit. Absolutely.
Well, and I think it's much more value than just the alignment system and Bond's ideals and flaws.
Yeah, and like we said, that's the starting point. But also, it's great to then know, does my character enjoy money more or society and like laws more? Oh, okay. Well, because if he's more dependent on the money than he is about the society around it, then that would equate us in a fifth ed system towards like lawful evil. Yeah. Right? Where I will do whatever I can to get more cash and I will use the rules to my benefit.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because ultimately, I'll even go into the black market because ultimately money is more important than rules
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
in that hierarchy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I love it. I love it. It's a great idea.
Yeah. You know, it's another great idea though.
Hit me.
Well, I think one of the values that you should always pick.
Ooh.
Always pick
Always.
every time.
Always. Yeah.
Especially if you're viewing our content. Can you guess?
I'm gonna say you should like it.
And subscribe to
And
it.
subscribe it.
And follow. Oh, we like it. Yeah, subscribe to it.
Like and subscribe.
And ring the notification bell and all that.
Yeah. Come on board. Join us along as we talk about these things that hopefully will help you and matter. We hope it matters in a way to improve kind of conceptually what's going on, because like we said, the book is just lackluster. It just doesn't have enough of anything. No definitions, no real descriptions. One sentence for each alignment is not enough to accurately depict it.
And I think as DMs and players, if you put more thought into this in relation to your creations and your creative sort of output, it'll make the whole game just a lot more richer and sort of more enjoyable for everyone.
Yeah, and it is also going to give you truer RP experiences.
Yes. Again, I'm all about consistency in the character.
Yeah.
So.
And I'm all about developing character.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. Well, speaking of developing, so now we've broken it all apart, right? And I think maybe we have to kind of put it more back together in a way conceptually, or let's talk about putting it back together, right? Okay. So we both liked breaking off the morality section of it and then working with traits and like those ideals, bonds, flaws, sure, that build into a value system. But conceptually, what can that look like? And like before I said, okay, we choose where we are on the line, and then from there, we're going to create some values and blah, 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 and encapsulate it out. Another great, really, really great kind of groundbreaking way, I think, that we could try and conceive of this is adding in these traits and values to our backstory. And while we're going through, what were you? Oh, I was a charlatan, I was a scholar, I was a blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Take that and don't roll the D8 and pick the line and go, okay, that's it, and then just copy down and move on. Stop and I'm going to call it Inside Out It. So you're familiar with the movie Inside Out?
Yes, I was going to say it's a good movie.
it's a great movie, and like I said, it was groundbreaking in the way that it started to discuss emotional concepts to children.
Yep.
Right, and we're all children at heart. So let's look at that movie as a metaphor and an example.
Okay.
Take your character. What are your character's core values? Okay.
Absolutely.
These are the core values. Assign a memory.
Oh, that's really cool.
To that, what
was the defining moment
solidifies that as a core value? Was it what process did your character go through? What happened in their backstory? And we're not talking about one sentence that's 5 years of their life. We're talking about actually conceive of a moment in their life that was so powerful that it had adjusted them in a certain direction forever. Right? Or forever until now, because we know they can change. We know they can evolve. We know they can shift. And we know that, at least exemplified in the story, in the movie, core values don't have to be joy-based. Right? They can be sadness-based, anger-based, envy-based, fear-based. That was the examples that they had there. But we can add in our own emotions and talk about which emotions really drive the character. Right? Is it your stereotypical barbarian that is rage-based rage? Right?
Rage-based rage.
Well, because they say, rage is where they go,
like
they're frothing at the mouth, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But, maybe they go quiet into a killing instinct. Whatever. However you describe it, right? That should be explained by something in your past history. Right?
Yeah.
No, Master said that angry bears, don't get the honey. Right? It's the calm, patient bear that will climb the tree, not knock it over, that gets more. Okay, great. So that's why my character is quiet and patient. Maybe it's still an anger-based memory. But let's talk about and let's conceive more often the idea of real moments in that character's fake history. Right? And one of the things that I do as a DM when I remember to, because there's a lot going on, is when people are rolling death saves.
Okay.
I'll ask them where their character's memory has gone to, where their mind has drifted to, as their life is flashing before their eyes.
Okay.
Give me a memory.
What's flashing?
Right?
Yeah.
Right. It's always time for RP. We're in the middle of combat,
Yeah.
but I want you to tell me about your childhood as your character. And I think we should be able to do that when we're conceiving of alignment. Right? These, when we're breaking it apart and we're looking at values.
Right.
Right? What are the core values that drive your character? What are the memories attached to that? Okay, great. That should inform or use that cyclically to have your backstory inform that to inform your backstory.
Yes.
Right?
That's how I would do it.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I think adding on that little extra exclamation mark that you can tap on and go, oh yeah, no, they learned the value of sharing when they were starving on the street and somebody broke off the end of the loaf of bread.
Right.
Or the baker, we go to the Katniss Everdeen thing, right? Instead of throwing out the bread, the
Right,
baker
right.
gives it to the kid and then they become friends forever.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. But these things become core memories then that we can flash back to or we can use to move ourselves forward.
Right.
Right? You want to say something? I can see this.
No, I just thought about the baker's son giving the bread, and his name was Pita.
Yeah.
And then Pita bread. And
Yeah.
I didn't want to bring it up because I think it was that funny, but I was laughing. I was grinning.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Thanks for the bread, Pita.
Shout out to Peter.
Pita bread.
But yeah, he's a champion. You show some respect.
It's true.
Some GD respect.
True.
But going back to alignment, obviously, I think it's going to be harder to do that.
Yeah.
Right? Because it takes more time. It takes more conception. But when we know that these are the things that have really affected us deeply as characters, right? Not as the players who are doing these terrible or amazing things to your character.
Yeah.
But when you're creating it, this will help you react to the world around you. And it'll help tell you what is good to you and what is evil to you.
What is important and why.
Yes.
Why do you need to kill this bandit right now and not bring him to justice, to jail and stand trial? Why? Right? And when the other players or the characters ask you, what is up? Why do you need to do this? You can tell them. Right? And it's another, again, a jumping off point for RP.
Exactly.
Which is it's what we're all about, I think.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And just as a reminder, because it's a system that you can grow into, and we always talk about aiming up, right? Just aiming a little bit up, improving a little bit, every character over character, every story over story. If it's too much to come up with like a core value or a core belief based on the bond, the flaw, the ideal, do one. Right? Just pick one at random or actually pick one that you want to have a strong association to.
Yeah.
And then add a memory to that. Right. And then next time maybe do 2. Next time do 3. Next time do all 4. Right. And just keep adding as you go because it'll become more familiar and easier over time to do.
Yep.
But I think Inside Out is a great system that you could adopt.
Right.
And it's very clear and very easy to see how that affects people.
Yeah.
Right. And even Bing Bong. Right? You got to leave them behind sometimes, right? What parts of you that you have to cut off and sacrifice. We're talking about story, right? What do you have to sacrifice to move on? Maybe you have to sacrifice some of those core memories or core values in order to attain what it is that the character needs to attain.
Yeah.
Right? And surpass the alignment system.
Well, and by doing this, you'll give meaning to everything a character does or does not do.
More.
Yeah.
More meaning.
Exactly. Because then you have all this backlog of context of why they're acting a certain way.
Well, when you break the mold and you go against the grain and against the river flow,
you know why too, right?
Well, everyone else will know why. Know that singular thing was so important that you had to break your bond, your flaw, your ideal.
Yeah.
Yeah, in order to do it.
Right? Like everyone is redeemable except this guy.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's well and all and good. But I think some of the listeners will be like, yeah, but great. Right? But come on, guys. I know that, you talk about all this relativeness of alignment and you've got like all these traits and whatever, but what about all of the mechanics in the game that depend on alignment systems?
Oh, sorry. I thought you were talking about like good mechanics, like actual mechanics and evil mechanics. But no. The mechanics thing, I was just like, well, then don't take it to the evil mechanic.
You charged me for something that didn't need to be fixed.
Yeah, you're gonna need new windshield.
It's for your own good. They
Yeah.
have too much money.
Safety. Okay, yeah, no.
Yeah.
So the mechanics, the operation of the game.
Yeah.
I don't know that there's a lot out there.
There's actually a whole bunch.
Is there?
Yeah, they're a little bit obscure. I mean, if you what some of them are and some of them aren't. It depends on how
Lawful you are.
well, yes. Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of them can be homebrewed away if you want. But
Sure.
things like if a character gets turned into a vampire, your alignment becomes lawful evil
Automatically.
automatically. And you have no choice according to rules as written.
Interesting.
Like, and what does that mean? And then that's the problem. Like, what does that mean, lawful evil? We talked about the whole problem with that.
Right.
Lawful evil compared to what? Right?
Well, even in the case I know we talked about before, even like the good evil thing of being selfless and selfish.
Yeah.
Right. As kind of a
Yeah.
operating terms. Yeah. So immediately you become selfish.
Right, and that's
Immediately
not
you
that's not fun either. Not necessarily, and that's what you want to go towards as a player in DM. But it also removes player agency,
really does.
right? It's like, what if I don't want to? Like, why would I? What? It doesn't make sense, right? But there's a bunch of stuff like Rakshasas are vulnerable to attacks made by magical piercing damage done by magical weapons if they're wielded by a good character.
Okay.
Right, but
That's a mouthful. So
it is
piercing
damage.
damage done by a magic weapon
Yeah.
wielded by a good user.
Yes,
They're vulnerable to that.
they're vulnerable. I mean, it used to be just a blessed crossbow bow.
It used to be a
right?
blessed crossbow bolt.
And not
that
just
was an
vulnerable, it was
instant-
just outright
It
death.
was an instant death, yes.
But yeah, but then it's good, but who says they're good? Is it just something I wrote on the page? Look, they're good, and the DM agrees, or is it one of the deities? Is it something else? It's difficult, right? And it seems kind of flimsy, but it's there.
Right.
How do I deal with that stuff? There's things like the talisman of pure good and pure evil. There's
Okay, yeah.
the big one is the Oathbreaker Paladin. If you want to be an Oathbreaker Paladin, you have to be evil.
Interesting.
Yeah, check it out. DMG page 97.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
The eidetic memory coming out here.
No, it's in my notes. Yeah, it's in my notes. It's in my notes, guys. I forget everything. Right, but like if I don't want to homebrew stuff, I mean,
Right.
you can. It's pretty easily homebrew things
Ooh, okay.
if you want to. But there's a lot more of these. This is probably like this is 5 examples that I found, and there's like lots that I found
Interesting.
in my research.
Interesting.
So I mean, yes, alignment RP wise is kind of useless and of limited value. But like, what do you do? Because you've got all this mechanic stuff that depends on it. I think the Wizards of the Coast is sort of moving away from this because you see like detect good and evil. It doesn't have anything to do with good and evil, anymore,
Zero to do with that anymore.
right?
Yeah.
And these are maybe a little more obscure.
Well, and
but-
this is why, like I said before, there has not been a conversation to
Yeah.
increase the nuance
It's so muddled,
or
right?
comprehension in 40 plus years.
Yeah.
Obviously, they are talking about it because they have to keep reprinting it and whatnot. But the amount, it's like they're phasing it out. If you look at the
Right.
PHB and how much is actually written on alignment,
Yeah.
it might as well not really be there. And while it was a defining core concept, RP today is not RP of 40 years ago.
no, not at all.
And if it is, I missed out because
Right,
I've been in the
right.
wrong channels. So I think that we have to have these conversations.
Yep.
And the game designers need to also have these conversations
Yep.
of where they need to add more and bulk out, or just redistribute what's there, toss what's useless, keep what's useful. And maybe they tried to do that in 4th, and then it didn't work, and they went back to
Right,
out at 5th
right.
because we go back to status quo. But status quo isn't enough.
Wizards of the Coast, telling you, it's the value systems of competing value systems. That's how you do.
Available. You're available.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can come down, hang
Yeah.
out with you guys.
Right? Let's have a chat.
Yeah. Yeah.
But so what do you do with all the mechanics? So these little leftover, unfinished, untied up ends of alignment that have mechanical repercussion, right? I would say just do the value system thing, and then again find out where your alignment kind of is, and then just write that out on your sheet and use that, and just forget about it until it matters. Because really, it matters a lot only in these few specific spots within the mechanics.
Right.
Where you can just homebrew them away. Like the whole Oathbreaker thing, like the DM can be like, nah, you don't need to be evil.
Yeah.
Right? But Oathbreaker, the value system works really well with something like the Oathbreaker. Here's how your values have changed. Right? And you as a player can work out with your DM how it changes.
See, and ultimately context is going to decide whether you're right or not. Because initially, my idea is to say that, no, I believe you're wrong in that statement, right? An Oathbreaker doesn't necessarily mean that what they're doing is evil.
Yep.
An Oathbreaker is breaking their oath for a reason.
Yep.
It doesn't mean that now, to me as a DM and a world builder and a storyteller and whatnot, when I hear Oathbreaker, I don't immediately go to the template of Oathbreaker in the DMG.
Yeah.
Because to me, that's the example of kind of a fallen angel type character, right?
Don't get me. Let's not get started with angels.
Not an actual angel and devil. No. But you know, that's your super pious, super righteous individual that does a 180 and then it's not, hey, I believe in good and mercy and faith and righteousness and whatnot, and you find that the church around you is corrupt. Right? And then you're like, oh, okay, I need to fix the church. And they go, oh, you've fallen away from the path of light. And you're like, no, you have fallen away from the path of light. I am the only one walking it.
It's more, I think it's more like,
now
I'm a redemption paladin. I could not redeem. I could not in good conscience redeem this person, even though I could have. Maybe.
Sure,
right?
Maybe, but I think breaking your oath to exemplify your oath could also be an interesting oath breaker. Interesting. And so you've transcended the old corrupt kind of oaths or the halfway oaths because you live your life to the max.
See, I don't know because these days paladins aren't so much churchy guys, even though they can be, or women. They get their power from their oath to that concept that
to the belief in the will. Yeah. So when they're doing that, though, if that's based on principles around them, so they're part of an order or a chapter or whoever trained them, right? Because I don't think you, and I mean, you definitely can be like a folk hero paladin, but most of them don't exist in a vacuum. They're not by themselves in the woods believing so hard that they have magical powers.
That's orcs.
But
40k orcs.
40k orcs, got it. Sure, maybe. But no, you know what I'm saying, right? Like you don't, you like, how did you become a paladin? How did you develop the will and the belief in a system while you were just out in the woods picking berries? That's kind of more of a druid monk kind of thing. Build, right? So conceptually, obviously you can do it.
Druids, they're just forest paladins.
We're just vegan paladins.
Veganins.
No, druids are friggin' awesome. I love druids. But conceptually, then I would question that, right? And you go, okay, so breaking your oath, I think, can mean transcending through it because you've seen that it's not the right path. And then when you go like, oh, okay, so now mechanically you have better access to controlling and supporting undead. Like,
what?
Why? Because I believe in mercy and kindness. All right, boys, let's go do some mercy and kindness.
I used to be a vengeance, but now I'm redemption. Right? I believe in redemption. Oh. I guess I can redeem these zombies.
Yeah, we had a character like that, right? Where you raise the criminals to serve out
to pay for the evil they did in life. They'll pay in on death,
right? Yeah. So a great concept on a necromancer. But when we go in that alignment system, right? Then your character believed that he was doing a good thing by raising dead sinners or dead criminals
to do good.
Yeah. I'm gonna use your vessel to do good.
Yeah.
What good that your character perceived that they were doing, but nonetheless a way to work it around so that necromancy is evil. Well, no, maybe not in this case.
It's just a knife.
It's just a tool that I'm using. Yeah. So
just a knife.
It's
I need a shirt. It's just a knife.
It's or else. So when we're building this stuff, though, it is really interesting that you're saying, just homebrew. I know you haven't hit it yet. It's just I'm going to homebrew and hand wave that away.
Yep.
Right. For the purpose of putting the story first, I do want my chaotic good, I don't know, whatever it is, cleric, to not become a lawful evil vampire because they got bit because they were trying to like sanctify some catacombs or something.
Yeah.
Right? I don't want them to just snap, immediately you open your eyes and you're a bad guy now.
Mm-hmm.
I can't, no, you can't. Go be a bad guy. Like, that sucks.
Like, it's not just, doesn't change my body, it changes like my entire belief system. Like, what?
Everything, you went into focus vampire school.
How does that work? Because I want to reverse engineer that and use that on all the criminals.
Right.
To be law-abiding citizens.
Right. Can we get a vampiric anti-venom up in this?
Right.
Yeah. Because the problem is if you include these things, the PCs can absolutely abuse that, like you just said, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, what are we going to do? Well, the wizard and the artificer are going to go milk some vampire venom.
Well, milk the guy that just became a vampire.
And they're going to take that and they're going to figure out what the properties of it, and they're going to figure it out because of magic, right? And then they're going to create a reverse version of it, and then they're just going to run around with dart guns, shooting everyone.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't matter if you're good, then you just transmogrify from good to good.
And then they make a theme park around that. And then it's Good Vampire Park. And you can say nature finds a way.
It doesn't necessarily turn people into vampires, but it maybe good vampires. I don't know. I don't know what's going on.
One that just sparkle in the sunlight.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Sparkles. But that can happen. And
yes. So it will happen.
Mechanically, I think you need to watch out and decide if alignment is not a big thing that you and the table are paying attention to. Well, then I'm sorry. All vampires aren't lawful evil. Or maybe all vampires are lawful evil, but a PC that gets turned into one isn't. Why? Because we're going to deal with
PC power.
PC powers activate.
Yeah.
Plot armor engage.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that there's something to be said when you're looking at items, the talisman of good and evil. I know while you were talking, I was thinking about the robes of the Archmagi, right? There was one for each and whatnot. Some of that stuff I kind of like, but it's all holdover historic.
Yeah, it really is.
Kind of things. It's not actually anything useful and decent that adds to the game. It's holdover stuff.
Yeah.
So, do we need it?
You get very easily be like, oh, these this talisman is not just pure good and evil. It's now based on this value.
Right.
Right. You need to believe in this. Right. It knows if you're not, and then it'll punish you if you're not.
Yeah, the talisman of pure fenestration.
I just love jumping through windows. I don't know.
Every time something goes through a window, I heal 1d6.
The cleric just has a wooden frame and just flaps over me while I fight.
Are you fighting with a folded up chair? Nah, it's a windowsill, bro. Okay. Make that character, right? Like, okay, have fun with it. Yes, I think that there's, I don't know why I brought that up, but yeah, no, it's when we start to play with those kinds of ideas, if it's not important to the campaign, if it's not important to the story, if it's not important to the table, don't really worry about it.
Yeah.
If you've got a creature like the Rakshasa that you're fighting, maybe go, oh, okay, it needs to have some interesting vulnerability because I need some way for my PCs to overcome or have an edge against it because it's way too powerful or it's way too whatever it is. Okay, cool. Do that, but maybe it's not that exact thing. Figure out something like the term shoot the monk, right? Get in there, find out what your PCs are doing, see how they're preparing for the fight, and incorporate that somehow into what is happening if they're on the right track.
Yeah.
Right? And let them have it. Just let them have it. Also let them have it, but like let them enjoy their decisions.
Yep.
And see that they actually matter and see that they help what's going on. So of course, but I think when we start zooming out, right, for DMs, world builders, storytellers, we have to then start assigning alignment to our societies, to our areas, to our tribes, our villages, our kingdoms, our empires.
Because they do have.
Yeah, and they do. And once again, the alignment system is only kind of like a first step. I think it works great when you say this society prizes these values and these traits.
Yeah.
We are a society that cares for our weakest members. Okay. Are they good or evil? You probably know which way they lean. If that's their header, right?
Right.
Care for the weakest individuals. then you probably know which way they lean without actually having to say whether they're good or evil.
Right.
Now, do they care for their
Because we
weakest-
need a slave force.
Yeah. or because, yes, we need more low-cost housing, so we're going to bulldoze the elven forest.
Right.
Right? And we need all of that
Right.
timber to build houses for people. Okay, now we're in D&D. Now we're adding the gray zone.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Because it's not binary. And
Not.
it shouldn't be.
Yeah.
It should be a problem to decide what it is.
Well, and it's good to have things in societies that are nuanced because no society is purely good. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's the hope, but none of them are.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And no society is necessarily purely evil either. Typically, it's just a society that has like that holds all the values that are opposite to yours, and so you see them as evil.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah. Well, and then simultaneously, let's try for an experiment to design a kingdom that is more chaotic in nature. Right? So the king says, you pay me taxes, or else the soldiers are going to come and I'm going to get my taxes worth out of your stock, your whatever.
Right.
Okay, great. But if you pay your taxes, I don't care. You can do whatever you want.
Right.
Right? The laws are pay the taxes. That's it.
Yeah.
Right? As long as you pay your tax, we got no beef. What does that kingdom look like? There's far more.
Everyone's a king, taxing everyone else.
Maybe.
There's no laws, right? I tax you. I tax you.
Maybe that's how I get my taxes, by taxing other people, right? Protection money and all that. You go mafia style.
No.
Okay, cool, great. And then what is, and that is, I think that's cool, and I do
Hey,
think that's great.
adventurers, welcome to my kingdom.
Welcome. Do you need your windows washed? That's a mighty fine, shiny sword. You want it polished? Right? Nobody ever came to polish that sword. But the trouble is, or not the trouble, but I think the fun of it is what happens when we stop making them good or evil
Yeah.
and assigning a morality to them and just making them do things and just making that be the norm and then have that alien experience of when the PCs come to an area. Now it feels more exotic. Why? Because you can't wear red tunics.
Right.
Only the royalty can wear red tunics. Okay, well, one of the characters, his order, right? The paladin, I don't know, we always pick the paladin, the fighter or whatever, he wears red. Well, now he goes to jail. Right? And we go, well, this isn't a big thing,
Yeah.
but it could become much bigger.
Right. Or it's like, no, you remove it or you go to jail. Right. So then what do you do if that is who you are and that's you have to wear your red tunic?
Or if it's required by your guild or your order or
and
whatnot.
betraying, you have to remove your helmet, Mandalorian. We don't wear helmets in this country. And what do? You stop being a Mandalorian? Or do you go to jail? Or fight? Or
Right.
right? And that's where that conflict of values come from. And that's naturally how conflict sort of happens. There's no right or wrong necessarily in that situation.
Nope.
It's just a conflict of values.
Right.
And typically that's what most conflicts are, I think. Because everyone kind of thinks that they're right. Usually.
I do. I definitely do.
Well, I know I am.
Yeah, I don't know about that. But yeah, no, I agree with it. I agree with it. And I think when we start playing with it that way, the alignment system then becomes very descriptive of what you're experiencing. So things become exotic and alien, even though they're very similar.
Yeah.
But there's this tint or there's this like weirdness to it that I think when normalized, when you're there or when you as the DM or whatnot are playing it off as very normal. Like, oh yeah, people just don't wear red tunics around here.
Right.
That's just normal. It's been this way
But
for 50 years.
everyone's looking at you like,
And they're like, oh my God, like
you better take that off.
you maybe, yeah.
Like, you can't come to my store. Nope.
Nope. I don't want to aid in a bed.
They don't even look at you. They don't talk to you. They just ignore you.
Zero service.
Yeah.
And you don't know why is the PCs, right?
Yeah.
So that's where we go, okay, let's investigate. Let's find out what's going on. Let's interact with the world around us and make it a little bit more interesting.
Well, yeah, and just how the values of a character sort of informs them how they view other characters and themselves and the actions. Like you're talking about though, the values of a country can inform the DM on how that country views other countries of varying value systems.
Yeah,
and say these two countries, they do trade very close, but they don't like each other. Like they just, it feels like war might break out. There's tension there. Purely because of the value systems.
Yes.
Like no slaving, no slaves, slaves. Right? That's why. Right? But they get along because they both hate undead and undead's up there.
Right.
Right? Stuff like that, right? Then you can sort of understand the dynamics much more.
Well, then it goes back to your value and your hierarchy. Safety and security of our twin kingdoms is more important, even though what you do is detestable.
Yeah.
Because if we don't stand united, they're going to come smack us.
Yeah.
And we're going to lose everything.
But just what till you see what happens once we've taken care of all the undead.
Yes.
Right? Oh, the heroes destroyed the lich with the... Now look what you did.
Yeah.
Heroes. Are you really heroes?
Now the triangle isn't a triangle anymore. Now it's... Yeah.
Right? And so then are the heroes evil? Are they not? They're just doing what they believe in.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
So that's going to be very interesting and different, but I think in a more positive way that you'll have control over your character or the scope of your world or wherever you're focusing in on when we stop just bringing the entire conversation down to one of 9 terms.
Right.
Right. And especially true neutral. What the hell is that? But
it's like I did 3 good things today, and on average, per day, aggregate over the year, I do about 3.2 good actions. So I need to do 2.1 evil actions today to balance that out.
Yeah.
Like, is that what true neutral is?
Your statistician cleric. He's just going over his ledgers and being like, I need to kick a baby today. And he's like, what? Why do you? Nope, you can't stop me.
It's kicking 2 babies and then healing 6 dogs. That's about right.
That's about right. And so that kind of
don't kick babies, do heal dogs. Just saying.
It's good advice.
Sorry,
it's good advice. Yes. Yeah.
I do not condone kicking of babies.
Baby kickers. I do condone doggy healers.
I mean, unless it was an undead baby. See, context. Well,
then it's not.
Don't change it.
That it's not a baby anymore. It's an undead baby, or it's a skeleton. Technically, it's a tiny skeleton.
But if my value was never kick a baby,
well, I don't think it's a baby. Then I think it's morphed into something
else,
evil. But no.
There you go.
Take these. We're getting
taking the agency away from the zombies.
We're getting well, zombies don't have agency anyway. So we're getting off topic. But I think when we start looking at these things, add to the conversation by being precise in what you're doing when you're building these characters, building these societies, building these NPCs, to have those core values.
Yeah.
And feel free to do weird things. Not like crazy necessarily, but do something exotic. Do something that you would think is mundane, but make it very important to them.
Yep.
And let it ride. Let's see what happens when you do that. Only wearing left shoes. No right shoes available. Right? And so there's buckets of water outside of every business. So people can wash their feet. Right? Just you can do weird things. And you can do fun things and interesting things, but then you have to go all the way with it, right?
Right.
And really build. Okay, if the society only has 1 shoe, okay, great. Then all of their fighters stand with their right foot forward because there's no left shoe, so they can wear protection on their right.
Right.
So every fighter fights with a sword in the left hand and a shield in the right, so they can present fully armored. Weird stuff, but if you're going to do it, take it all the way.
Right. Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, I think that at least adds to the conversation.
I think so. I think there's a lot more to talk about.
Alignment is pretty hefty, and especially, I mean, we avoided a lot of the morality of it because I think it's better to do that.
I mean, we've avoided the whole devils and angels and demons and them being the essence of good and evil.
The good and evil is built in them. Yeah, that gets to be a lot. And maybe we'll talk about that later when we start talking about the multiverse and whatnot.
But let us know in the comments what you guys think about alignment, and even if our ideas about value systems is garbage or not. We'd love to hear about it. It's not garbage, right?
Flawed ideal system.
Yeah. And let us know, what do you think about the alignment system? And is it broken? Is it not? Does it need improvement?
Or maybe we missed the boat and you think it's the law chaotic that needs to go away and the good evil needs to be the primary kind of thing. Because that would be an interesting argument.
Yeah.
I would love to see that kind of argument out there. Because that's the harder debate.
It is.
That's
It
much
is.
harder.
Yeah. But yeah. Anyways, I had a really great time. Thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, we really
Yeah, today's
appreciate you.
talks. Yeah.
Hopefully you appreciated this, and otherwise, get out there and do good.
Do law.
Do it all. I this time have been Byron.
I am not quite Fancy Sean anymore. I'm just Sean.
Sean this time.
This has been Caffeine and Cantrips.
Tune in next time.
Or else.
Do I assume that we're doing the invisible thing or not?
Sure.
Sure?
Wow.
Not. Okay, perfect.